All right, let's get the Friday, Freaky Friday going on. Here we go. All right, let's bring in the Luke and the Leia. Let's get this puppy going. Let's bring in the pre-roll. Yeah. Come on with it. Well, how you guys doing? Here we are. It's Friday night. We made it to another week. It's a good thing. Hope you guys are doing well. I'm doing alright. It's Friday night. Yeah. Smile on your brother. Everybody get together. Come on, Luke. Luke. Hope you guys had a good week. It's Frankie Ray live. We are Friday night. Still a box full of dicks. Yeah. The party froze quick. So funny. Somebody always jumps in here and then they leave while I'm doing the pre-roll. Maybe my pre-roll's a little too long. How you guys doing? Hope you're doing well. It is Friday night. Yeah. Hope you guys had a good week. Man, I had a good week. It's all good. I apologize for being... hang on, I still got music going on here. Apologize for being a couple minutes late. I found something interesting about my microphone. And I was messing with it, and it kind of starts like this. Anyway, that's why I was a couple minutes late, because I'm not really stoned. What is that smell? I was playing with my microphone. You know how musicians are. Once you find a sound, oh, something's burning. Shit, it's me. I was on motherfucking fire. I'm like, there. What's that smell? And then I look down, and it's me. I'm on fucking fire. I dropped an ash on my leg, and that's what the smell is. Welcome to Sundown. It is the end of the week. I'm Frankie Ray. Here at Sundown, we try and talk about a variety of different subjects, and we try and keep it right in the middle. We have a call-in number to invite you guys to come in and join the conversation. We'll put that up in a bit. I've dedicated Fridays to calling them Facebook Fridays. Reason being is there's always a bunch of interesting things on Facebook, and it gives us a chance for me to allow you guys to call in about some stuff you might have found on Facebook, or some things that I found on Facebook. Not that we all don't need enough Facebook, that we have enough. But before we get into that, let's start with this. And I'm just going to jump into it, and you can think about it however you want. The communist root of white privilege. Well, you'll never be radical enough, my friends. Americans are struggling to come to terms with the significance of the ongoing insurrection on America's streets. How does one understand the motives of those who chant Black Lives Matter? While demanding to topple a statue erected by freed slaves to celebrate their own emancipation. How do they do that? Well, after 9/11, American citizens were encouraged by leftists to ask, why do they hate us? Today, the same people, trained by years of victim blaming to hold themselves accountable for terrorism, both foreign and domestic, are asking a similar question. What flaw of ours makes these nice mobs so angry? The approved answer appears to be because of our white privilege, which must be dismantled. If the presence of Robin DiAngelo's white fragility atop the New York Times top 10 bestseller list is any indication, well, many Americans are coming to accept this response. What is white privilege? The National Museum of African American History and Culture offers the following definition, produced with your tax dollars. Well, white privilege. Since white people in America hold most of the political, institutional, and economical power, they receive advantages that non-white groups do not. These benefits and advantages of varying degrees are known as white privilege. For many white people, this can be hard to hear, understand, or accept. But it is true. If you are white in America, you have benefited from the color of your skin. This view of America as a country with a racial caste system has long been prevalent in academia and has spread to the culture more broadly, even to the government. Government bureaucrats are increasingly pushing such rhetoric in mandatory trainings. As city journalist Christopher Rufo has been tirelessly documenting, but it did not rise or arise out of thin air. The idea that there is an interest or inherent white privilege which must be shed by individuals for society to progress stems from the desire of American Marxists to understand their own history of failure. Well, despite decades of socialist labor agitation, radical union organizing, and robust revolutionary vanguard in the United States stretching back to the early 1900s, the radicals of the 1960s were at a loss to explain why their revolution, which they perceived as inevitable, had repeatedly failed. They noted many potential reasons, including America's view of itself as an exceptional nation, the open tracts of freely available land, social mobility, historical labor shortages, and the relative ethnic diversity of the working class. But as prospects of the revolution again began to emerge over the course of the 60s, the question of how to prevent this new uprising from failing took on a new dimension. Things came to a head amid debates with the Students for a Democratic Society, SDS, over how best to proceed. Well, the Worker Student Alliance Progressive Labor Party, WSA, PLP, fraction emphasized class consciousness, seeking to imbue revolutionary students with the predominantly white working class. They argued against growing communist support for national liberation movements and in favor of a largely traditional Marxist-Leninist interpretation of history. Their opponents in the Revolutionary Youth Movement faction of the SDS argued instead it was a lack of radical or racial rather than class consciousness which held back Marxist organizing in America. The, quote, anti-fascist, one of the leading theorists on this topic was Theodore Ted Allen. Now, Allen was a Communist Party member, a labor organizer, and eventually a researcher and a teacher on labor organizing in the Communist Party, founded Jefferson School of Social Scientists. Well, from his experience working to educate the working class about communism and drawing from the work of W.E.B. Du Bois, I can never say that, Du Bois, however it's said, Du Bois, Allen became basically convinced that the, quote, white working class would never be compelled to rebel as long as they accepted the white skin privilege. Well, which the capitalist system had evolved as an artificial but deeply rooted method of control to divide the white working class pretty much from the black working class, as well as preventing a united proletarism. Indeed, this problem of white skin privilege was as operative among the white radicals and seeking revolution as it was the white working class. And I guess as a result, only by purging themselves of their privilege could the new left radicals basically succeed where their predecessors had failed. Well, Allen wrote in, I believe, 1967, tract, Can the White Working Radicals Be Radicalized? This has been something that has not just appeared on our landscape. This has been something that has been in development since the 60s and before. Well, my friends, it signifies that the road to power begins with drawing from these few courageous examples two general rules of attack. First, face the problem of the necessity to repudiate the white skin privilege. Second, basically repudiate the privilege by violating the white gentleman's agreement. Well, as completely as you can at every opportunity, once radicals adopt such an approach to radicalizing the white masses, the implication for particular areas of activity will not be really that hard to find. If in doubt at first, well, just make a list of the privileges and start violating them. Whether the white workers can today or in the near future be radicalized in a historically more important and lasting sense than pretty much in the past crisis of our history. This depends mainly upon the function of the white radicals. Allen's partner in the effort and other leading theorist on, quote, white skin privilege was another former Communist Party member, Noel Lignatev, a.k.a. Noel Ignatin. Together they worked playing a key role in SDS and its split, with the Revolutionary Youth Movement fraction arising triumphant. The RYM would also fracture into the Weather Underground and Revolutionary Youth Movement, the two, which would later evolve into the new communist movement. But the concept of white skin privilege was instrumental to both factions. Self-criticism sessions aimed at eliminating white skin privilege would become a major facet of life in the WUO collective and would result in repeated purges and recriminations. No weatherman, no matter how radical, could ultimately escape their white privilege. While the Weather Underground sought to destroy their white privilege with Maoist-style struggle sessions, and by carrying out violent terrorist acts, the more practical Allen and Ignatev focused their efforts in more traditional areas. Through the Harper's Ferry Organization and the Sojourner Truth Organization, these two radicals and others emphasized targeting white privilege in the workplace, seeking to support black workers and re-educate white workers about their privilege. Well, the group would lead Wildcat, non-union organizing strikes against perceived radical injustices in the workplace. They opposed mediocrity in hiring as essentially racist, while these cadres were never large. Their tactics were influential, and their ideas even more so. They would go on to teach at Harvard as one of the leading proponents of the concept of white privilege and the begrudging field of critical race theory, while the Weather Underground and its splinter factions could come to influence the ideology and tactics of Antifa, who nightly take to the streets to wage insurrection against a country they view as inherently white supremacist. The legacy of Ted Allen and Noel Ignatieff would come to have tremendous impact on the left's understanding of its perceived base. The influence of Allen and, I cannot say his name, Ignatieff, is still redirected in the way that the left fully becomes fascist. Whenever the organizing took off in the 1980s against the backdrop of vociferous leftist accusations that Reagan was a fascist white supremacist, after working-class Reagan Democrats were perceived to have abandoned the left. Likewise, Trump's election and his win spawned a multitude of think pieces about his support among working-class white voters, coming as an alleged result of inherent racism. Among the most notable of these was one by political writer Joshua Zeitz, who borrowed heavily, although he did not cite from Allen's work. White skin privilege concept is his post-election piece, and he does white working class really vote against its own interest, and of course renewed Antifa violence, and has been aimed squarely at the Trump supporters, as well as police, and any who refuse to accept the current dogma that America is inherently racist and white supremacist. Well, the modern American left, which has entirely adopted the assumptions of the new left, genuinely believes that through the elimination of white privilege, the last stumbling block between it and its long-promised revolutionary utopia will be removed. But of course, this is not so, because their fundamental assumptions about Americans and American society are wrong. My friends, everyday Americans must realize, I know, Leia, don't bark. Everyday Americans must realize that even while the radical left demands they kneel and renounce their privilege, their white privilege, the reality is that they can never be appeased. It does not matter how much the white privilege kneel. It does not matter how much the white privilege capitulates. They can never be appeased. Too much has happened. And so the riots and the violence will continue, along with the academic, corporate, and bureaucratic struggle sessions, until we lay a stop. She's just humping the shit out of my leg down there. That's because it's her privilege. It will never stop until we unambiguously repudiate them. I know, Leia, I know. How's everybody doing tonight? Hope you guys are doing good. Leia, come on now. Tony, how you doing, Tony? Let's see who's in the room. There's Tony Epperson, Joseph Cannon. How are you, sir? It's good to see you on the show. We have dubbed Leia. Let me get my dog out of here because she's just blowing me up. I'll be right back. Leia, come on, let's go. Out. Come on, Bear. Go on. That bitch said, Daddy, it's Friday night. I need to hump your leg. For me, I don't think we can ever get rid of racism, my friend. It is ingrained in the fiber of humanity. We have come such a long way. We have come such a long way from where we were even in the 60s. And yes, it was interesting. I was watching a documentary today, and it was a psychology documentary, and it was about a psychologist taking children. No, come on, let's go. You're not going to hump my leg. Taking 4-year-old children and playing a game. And the game was this. They had them spin a wheel, and it either landed on green or orange. Whichever it landed on, they got a green or an orange T-shirt. And then the psychologist started asking them questions and showing them a picture of another child in a green shirt and another child in an orange shirt. And the psychologist asked a variety and a litany of questions. Which kid do you think would share your lunch with you? And the child in the, say, orange shirt pointed to the orange kid. Why? Well, because he has the same shirt as me. And it went on and on and on. Which do you think is most friendly? the orange shirt. And every question that they asked, the child pointed to the person that was like them. Not like them, but the person who dressed the same as they do. The shirt that was randomly picked for them by spinning a wheel. And, it makes you think that we are all programmed from the very beginning of our programming as children to see class, color, race, sexuality. We are programmed from day one to think they are like me, they are not. And the tendency in human beings and children is to say, I think they are more like me and are going to be more empathetic to me because they're wearing the same fucking t-shirt. And we grow up as adults and we run into the same thing. It's pretty crazy. I'm going to start by opening up the call-in line here real quick because I'd like you guys' opinion on that particular. Hang on, I got to get my thing going here. Number is 818-579-4651. 818-579-4651. It seems to me that we're culturally taught to look at others as different. Those are fat people, those are thin people, those are red-haired people, those are dark people, those are tall people, those are successful people, those are poor people. And it's human nature to judge them. The psychological profile went on to, I know I look like Ali Baba, whatever his name is. I had a short notice self-tape right before the show, so I had to do the beard thing. In as much as an actor would get typecast, for instance, like myself. I look a certain way, so naturally casting puts me in a specific category. He's a rough guy. He's mean. He's bad. Only until a director knows me as a human being and understands who I am beyond my look do I start to get roles that belie more toward my humanistic side, so on and so forth. Call-in line is open, 818-579-4651. That's 818-579-4651. I bought all this equipment and I have to switch back and forth to make things do this. I wish it was all on one page. If you'd like, give me a call. If not, we will jump right into Facebook Fridays, 818-579-4651. I wanted to make Fridays Facebook Fridays because there's a couple of things that wanted to talk about. And hang on, I need to pop this on over here. There we go. Let's just jump right into it. I saw this on Facebook, and it kind of goes like this. How would you feel? Imagine there's a man who for the last 5 years has assaulted you on average 2 times a year. He has raped you in the past. Then he shows up at your house at 4 a.m. You will wake up and you find him standing above you, you and your child in bed with you. He has his junk out, and then he sexually assaults you. He leaves the room, you quiet your child, and go into the living room. He is gone. You look out the window and your car is gone. You check your purse, your keys, and ATM card are gone. You call the cops. The cops show up. As you cry, you describe the sexual assault. The cops tell you this man has withdrawn money from your bank account twice in the last several minutes. Okay, you are imagining all that. Well, then imagine this. The guy who sexually assaulted you has received $2 million from a GoFundMe account. NFL players such as Drew Brees have your rapist's name on his helmet. Major League Baseball players walk off the field to support your rapist. Everything I just read is fact. It comes from the police report on the Jacob Blake incident. No shit. We have professional sports celebrities celebrating a fucking rapist. And then there's that. What do you guys think about that? I agree it's no reason or to kill somebody, to shoot them. But what have we come to, my friends? I'm just really confused about it. Maybe you can help me out, Joseph. It used to be when fundamentally someone had a record or was a bad person, and over time had not endeavored to change those ways. They were put into a certain classification of you do bad things, then bad things generally are gonna happen to you, regardless of whether you're white, Asian, rich, or poor. It's called karma, motherfucker. If you rape and steal when the police approach you, regardless of your race, and I understand that, African American people are immediately approached a specific way by police. Scientifically, it has been proven as fact. Psychologically, it has been so. But we did not used to make heroes out of our criminals just because they were killed, regardless of their race. I don't care if you are black or if you are white or if you are Hispanic. If you are a rapist and you give the police one iota of bullshit while they are trying to arrest you, maybe it's me. Maybe I am a racist. Maybe I just don't like assholes. And if he was a white guy, I would have said, well, I wish they didn't have to shoot him. I would have preferred he rotted in a jail. But they shot him, and that's not good for any life to be cut that short. It removes all option for redemption, for change on this plane. It removes all chances the video just ends. And that's a sad thing. But motherfucker, you probably deserved to get off the fucking planet. Because it's not like you were stealing for food. It's not like you were doing a pyramid scheme and you hustled money out of people that could afford to lose it. That's bad, I get it. When you climb into a woman's house with her children over a period of years and you sexually assault her, steal her car and her credit card and go shopping, I don't know. The way I'm just built, you need to get the fuck off the planet. If you fuck with kids, you need to get off my fucking planet and make room for somebody who doesn't want to do that shit. That's just me. Tell me what you think. 818-579-4651. That is not what we want up there. So that is the number, 818-579-4651. I'm going to move on to the next Facebook thing. Oh, man, it just all falls into the same category. It's just sad. Teaching manual masturbation in 3rd grade. Teachers' unions pushing this curriculum nationally. My friends, has our entire world come down to race and sex? It just seems that's what it is anymore. I mean, if you really look at the news and the world, everything is race and sex. Pedophiles, rapist, Hollywood, the politics, everything is down in the chakra of probably the two most disgusting areas that I think that us human beings reside in. Racism and perversion. And is that not partially because of our society and what we see? Look at this other Facebook post and what's going on, and people have been discussing. I'm a former ballroom dance teacher. I taught for Arthur Murray's for 11 years. Ended my career in Beverly Hills at Arthur Murray's. I taught through the 80s and the early 90s. And I love to see children dance, but I don't personally want to see them dressed up in this sexual, this kind of thing at that age, doing the kind of moves that they are doing. I just don't want to see it. And I'm trying to figure out, okay, maybe this plays into what the young kids want to see. But why do they want to see that, my friends? Because they're surely not taught that at home when they're 4 and 5. I might stand corrected. They are taught that at home when they're 4 or 5. They watch Beyonce and Little Kim and all these shows, and they see it on YouTube, and everything is thrown into their face exactly like this. Maybe what our country needs at this time, and I'm surmising, since none of you are calling in and sharing your fucking opinions. I'm just teasing. Maybe this is exactly what our country needs at this time in world historic destiny. Maybe we have gotten so perverted and so corrupted as a political force, as a musical and artistic society. Remember the music of the 80s and the 70s and the 60s and the 50s? Man, that was just good music. And there was a modicum of decency. I mean, within the music, it got out on the edge and, but in the 70s it started to get a little freaky. But it just seems to me, my friends, that it gets worse. And it gets worse. And as time goes by, it just seems that you have to do more and more that is more out on the edge, more sexualized, more make it rain, show me the money. I ain't saying she a gold digger. So, personally, I've been trying to figure out, why is it that we find the need to do this? Now, yes, the children will watch it, and the children may want to see it. Can we really complain? I was floating through Netflix last night looking for something to watch. I wanted to take a break from everything that I'd been packing into my brain over the last week. I just wanted to watch something uplifting. And my eye immediately went to the violent stuff and the satanic stuff and all the lowest chakras that we have. And my brain skipped right past wonderful stories about dogs and those kinds of things. We are conditioned to think in this way, are we not? And like a crackhead or a drug addict, our brain is not tickled unless we go to that zone. I'm not talking the child predator zone. But how can you not expect sexually liberated men, which the sexuality has gone so far left? It's okay to have sex changes. And I'm not saying this is good or bad or indifferent. I'm just stating what is. It's okay to have sex changes. It's okay to be half man, half woman. It's okay to live with men, marry men. It's okay to live with women, marry women. It's now legal in some states, I believe New Jersey, to marry your own brother. They won in court. Brother and sister. Now, I understand love, and I get it. But we shall reap what the fuck we sow. And when we constantly put this kind of stuff in the face of grown men who have been bombarded with sexuality, with, going to call it what it is, low morals and perversion for their entire lives. Shooting people on Xbox and killing zombies and going to wars. Watching MMA, watching bare-knuckle brawling. Watching stripper movies, glorifying strippers and hookers and porn. How can we expect people not to think that way? And the problem is becoming, at least I see, the problem is becoming that they are now trying to move in California to make it so that if you're within 10 years of the person that you're violating, from my understanding, it's a little more complex than that. It used to be, just as of recently, that the lowest age of consent anywhere in the world was 15 years old. Guess where that was? Take a wild guess. Think about it a second. Very small country. Vatican City. So my friends, I don't think we can bitch too much when our society is exhibiting perverted moral ways, when that's what we promulgate into society. Perverted moral ways. Why should it be any different? Somebody give me a call, tell me what you think, and you can do it right here at 818-579-4651. Why is that not popping up? I'm hitting the wrong buttons. There it is. Let's just move that on over. 818-579-4651. I would love to hear you guys' points of views, because I read a lot, but I'm over here and I'm pretty isolated, and I've been a rebel most of my life anyway. I don't like following rules. I've learned to adapt to them. But as I sit back and I watch our country leaning more towards socialism, as I sit back and watch our children being uneducated, and the racial divide intentionally, that wedge pushed back into our culture when we've come so far. And we really have come a long way. You can't deny that America is the safest place to live in the world. if you think about past histories, we are living in the safest times for almost everybody in the world, other than some very specific places. For the first time in history, we can now speak with anybody on the planet just like that and have a live video chat with them. We can get on a plane and fly anywhere in the world. You can be straight, you can be gay, you can be lesbian, you can be trans, you can be any one of, you can marry your own brother and sister, as long as you live in New Jersey. And isn't that what ended Rome? I think that we are a direct result of what we put out. Dear Nancy Pelosi, we think it's time for you to retire. Signed, everyone who shares this post. Why? Why is it time for you to retire, Nancy? Because you went and got your fucking hair did while everybody else was locked down. We used to just say to them, hey man, that was a pretty shitty thing to do. Now a lot of things are starting to come out that, as with Trump, that they knew ahead of time, and they did so to try and save the PPE for the people that are working in first responders. Logical, makes sense to me. Why can't you just say, hey, I don't know what's going on with this virus. It is too soon. As a president, as a Fauci, as a senator, why can't you just say, hey, you know what? I don't know, but we are working on it. And what we need to do is keep the PPE for the people who need to work in the emergency situations. What we're going to do is we're going to ask you to stay in your homes for 2 weeks. And I don't know how this is going to play out, but we have our best people on it. Why do you have to spin? Why can't you just be fucking honest and direct? No one is expected to know everything about everything. I think the average human being understands this fundamentally and would say, okay, you got our best people on it. Thanks for being honest. And when that 2 weeks comes to an end, why don't you just say, hey, we were hoping to get a hold of this in the first 2 weeks. It seems to be hitting us stronger than we thought. We closed down China, and we did this and this and this, and we have some PPE shortages, and we're trying to fire that up and get companies to make stuff. What we're going to need to do is ask you to stay home for another 2 weeks. And what would people say? Oh, man. Well, why can't you guys get a hold of this? You said 2 weeks. Well, we're doing our best. We don't know about this virus. Why can't you be honest and be direct with reasonably intelligent people? Why can't a president of the United States say, hey, those police officers put their knee on the neck of this man. It appears that they killed him. We will remove them from work while we look at it. Please be patient with us. We don't know any more than you do. Now you can go like this, and it might look that I'm flipping somebody off. It might look like I'm doing this. But if you turn the angle, it might look different. So, yeah, video doesn't lie, and eyewitnesses don't lie, but as we've seen, there is more going on with George Floyd than the video showed. So why can't people just be fucking honest in our government and say, hey, we don't know? there might be some nefarious shit going on here. We have to look at this, and it is going to affect us. So for the safety of the country, let's shut our borders, and let's slow down. We will get back to you as quickly as possible. It seems to me, my friends, that all we have, I don't know what this shit is. You need to go away, fucker. It seems to me that whenever somebody does something, the first thing we do is we cancel culture them and say, you gotta go. You made a fucking mistake. You gotta go. You made a mistake. You're done. Well, we all make mistakes. I've made many of them, and I've been given many, many chances. I'm sure you have made them as well. What I don't understand is, actually I do understand it. The moral fiber of society has been pushed away from God, has been pushed away from morals and moralistic behavior. We know this. Our educational system has been intentionally defunded so that we cannot attract the most intelligent people to teach our children. The money has been removed, and there's a reason why. If you want to conquer the world, all you have to do is make one generation ignorant. By ignorant, I mean not knowledgeable enough about their rights and critical thinking, how to think ahead and from a non-biased emotional point of view, which is generally people in their 40s and 50s, because they've taken a lifetime to figure that out. It's not taught in our schools. Critical thinking is not taught. When our colleges have courses about Marxism and about Muslim extremist thoughts, and you're in a climate where you can no longer even say anything bad about them. Our education has been defunded, and our new generation that we sit at now is fucking stupid. Now, there are intelligent people of all races that rise to the cream, and the cream rises. But the mass, the bell curve, has changed. It is no longer a bell curve. As far as intelligence and education goes, it used to be the idiots were on the left, the majority of the population was in the middle, that creates the bell, and the extreme intellects were out on the other side, and it made a bell, the shape of a bell. Well, now the bell goes more idiots, and the majority of society is not in the center education-wise, intellect-wise, thinking-wise. You know, it's funny, I was watching 3 hours of Joe Rogan interview with David Lee Roth today. And I grew up with Van Halen. I play many of their songs. Most of us grew up with Van Halen. And we know David Lee Roth did copious amounts of drugs in the 80s, as did I, and probably most of you. And I'm watching the interview, and David Lee Roth is just all over Joe Rogan. He's just dominating the conversation. And then and this and that. And he's trying to be funny to a comedian. And I'm watching the beginning of it, and I'm thinking, oh, God, his brain is damaged. And, wow, this is, Joe Rogan is just going to tear him up. And as it went on, I come to realize that David Lee Roth is a expansively knowledgeable human being. David Lee Roth has done a lot of shit. And I'm not talking just about music, drugs, and pussy. David Lee Roth has spent endless amounts of time in Japan with the samurai. David Lee Roth went and for 3 years was an EMT in New York. This is in the 80s. While at the height of his Van Halen fame, he went for a year to EMT school and became an EMT, an ambulance guy, and served in uniform in New York at night in the worst neighborhoods. David Lee Roth is a cliff climber. David Lee Roth is a soul searcher and highly articulate and educated. He's just up here and he's tweaky. And I watched the whole 2 hours and I thought, wow, and that's part of the conversation. It's a very interesting 3 hours to sit through. Joe Rogan went, David, we just knocked out 3 hours, bro. And once you get past his personality and you listen to what he says and the way he talks about it, he's just got a wealth of knowledge from a lifetime of living through the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and up to now, 50s up to now. And they were talking and they were saying, it used to be, Joe, David saying, that to be a musician, a artist, you were well-rounded. You were taught in singing and dancing, and you had to learn how to paint art. You had to learn how to play an instrument. You learned some martial arts. You learned a variety of things. You were taught to go to other places and learn about other cultures. And it seems to me, my friends, nowadays, what our children are taught is to turn on fucking Netflix. And they're not balanced. They're not artistically inclined. They're not knowledgeably and functional in a variety of areas. People have asked me, why do I do so many different things, from cliff climbing to scuba diving to kayaking to this, to that, to stunts, to music, to singing, da-da-da-da-da. And it's because I've spent a lifetime as a Gemini, and as I begin to get good at something, I naturally start to lose interest and I look for something else that I'm not good at, because I enjoy the process of learning something new, putting something else in my pocket. David Lee Roth was saying in the interview that it was never the performances that he enjoyed so much. What he enjoyed so much was the rehearsal time leading up to the performance. During the performance, shit happens. Eddie would forget something, or the spotlight wasn't where it was supposed to be. What he really enjoyed was the process. And it seems anymore that everyone wants to get to the finish line and omit the process. And that's where we stand, my friends. And could there be value in that? I'm trying to get my shit back up here. Somebody give me a call. Tell me what you think. 818-579-4651. 818-579-4651. Well, that looks kind of weird. It was, it's for a feature film, and it's one of the lead roles, so I had to jump on that real quick. Tony Epperson, how you doing today, my brother? It's Friday night. You guys are my date. I don't know if Joseph Cannon's still in here, but I would love for Joseph to call me. I'd love to hear his voice. I did a film with Joseph a few years ago, 818-579-4651. And Joseph's a very talented actor. Handsome motherfucker. Handsome motherfucker, that Joseph Cannon. I think it would behoove us, my friends, to no longer be angry at what's happening with our society. One, because having an emotion about it is not going to change anything external outside of us. It is only going to affect us in our universe, and we all know this. We all struggle with it. We all fall short. I think it behooves us to come to, unfortunately, the understanding that our society is corrupt, our society as a whole is immoral, greedy, selfish, and conditioned to not think about anything other than our own carnal desires. These things are no longer taught or desired. They are no longer held up as things to be admired. The way Trump behaves does not help this, but I understand why he does it, because he understands, I believe, fundamentally that is where society resides, and he is just appealing to the nature of the majority of society. And that's what's so frustrating for me, because as a human beings and as a race, I thought the modus operandi was to continue to learn, to evolve, to get better, to get more spiritual, to understand things. And now we sit in an era where all information is at the tip of our fucking fingers. We can spend all night learning law or medicine, and we can pretty much do it online. All information is available. And what do? We watch Netflix, we watch Pornhub, and we go on Facebook. Hey, Poo-Poo. This is Luke. This is Luke Skywalker. And I beat my head against that wall. I beat my head against, well, we have to speak up. We have to, fight for the intellect and what is true and what is honorable and what is godly. And maybe it's just time that we say, hey, if this is what society insists on being, who am I to go against the majority? Because disliking it, loving godly things, and striving for a godly life, a moralistic life, and wanting that for your fellow human, wanting, then expecting it to happen. We can hope all we want and teach our children all we want the best way that we know how to teach them and educate them. That doesn't mean they're going to turn out to accept it. We can lead them to the light. We can't make them look at it. They're individuals. They get to choose the only thing we own. They get to choose how they think and how they feel. Isn't that right, Luke? So why should we beat ourselves up emotionally and not and just look at what is the truth? We go outside today, and there is no sun in Los Angeles. It is nothing but smoke and ash. And we know the sun's up there, but it is in a haze. It is in a fog. It is filtered. And we can wish all the fuck we want. Man, I just wish it's fall. It's the best time of year here. Wishing isn't going to take that fog and that smoke away. So why don't we accept it for what it is? We can look at the window on a rainy day, longing for the sun, or we can look at the rain and say, well, maybe this is what the planet needs right now. A lot of water. And maybe what the planet needs right now is for humanity to rage against itself. And I'm going to go way out on a limb and say something I'll probably catch flack for. But maybe Bill Gates is right in ways. We are overpopulated. And the majority of that population are unmoral fucking idiots. And maybe it's time that we clean our planet up and get rid of the unmoral fuckwads. When I look at something like this next photo that I'm going to put up, and I think about the concept of it, and the thought process behind it. I'm not finding it. It was the picture of the 9/11 memorial to the firefighters, and they had chopped down the flag and desecrated the memorial. These young people and the movement that is being forced on America, they don't care about anything other than their agenda and what they are being paid to do. Much like us, when we were young, we raged against the machine. And is that not the nature of every generation, to rage against the machine, to rebel against the big band with rock and roll, to rage against rock and roll with disco, to rage against disco with more rock and roll in the 80s, to rage against that with house music in the 90s, and to rage against that with techno and rap. And everything degrades. So, for us grown-ass folks, like the beautiful Tiffany Lee Kirkpatrick and Alan Lazar, hey, what's going on, brother? You having dinner? Hope I don't ruin your dinner, my brother Alan. If you guys ever need a brilliant chiropractor, that guy right there, Alan Lazar, is in Beverly Hills, and he will take good care of you, and he will hook you up, and he will do it with loving gentleness. My friends, I fight and I struggle because I'm a carnal human being. I'm a violent human being. I'm a sexual creature. And I struggle with it because I'm drawn to it on my dark side. But my light side pulls against it. You spend 6 months in a cell. You change how you look at things. And as of late, I come to the conclusion, maybe only for myself, that it does me no service, or it does none of you any service, for me to sit here and rage against the is that's going on. The is not going to change. It is a global and a nationwide movement that is perpetrated by people who have a lot more money than me, by people who have a lot more pull than me, and by people who are willing to tap into the base consciousness and the rage of humanity. And I don't really want to tap into that. Is that my way of saying, you know what, I'm just going to step away, fuck it, I can't do nothing? No, but when you continue to hit your thumb with a hammer, trying to drive in a nail, again and again and again and again and again, maybe it's time to step back and think about going about it another way. When your dogs continue to bark at anything that walks by your fence, yelling at them for years on end does nothing but piss you off and the neighbors. They're fucking ignoring you. Maybe it's a different way to go about looking at what they're doing and why they're doing it, and put some training into them. So, as the week comes to a close, and I'm left with the resonance of what I'm always left with, and where we always end up in this thing called Sundown. All we can control is ourselves, my friends, and hope that other human beings will look at those examples that we set. And if society does not adhere to what we call moral fiber, what we call goodness in humanity, then we have a choice. And our choice is to pack up, load up, close the walls off, and isolate ourselves with the other good human beings that think the way we do, and shut down. Or we can go out there and put them in the fucking dirt. And then are we not being the righteous? Are we not saying they are less than us because of what they think? Does that not make us the pompous white privileged, or the high and mighty African American who thinks they're better than those who are not educated? Are we any different than they are, struggling to get their point of view across, being that we all live in individual universes and we subscribe to each other's beliefs? You have one group believing this, another group believing that. Every country in war believes their God is going to help them win and their cause is just. Our fellow liberals and even these Antifa people, in their heart of hearts, believe their cause is for the betterment of mankind in America. Regardless whether it's true or not, in their universes, they are fighting for what's right. And how do we educate them otherwise? Do we even bother? I wonder what Martin Luther King would say about that. I wonder what Jesus would say about that. I wonder what Buddha would say about that. It's very hard for me not to close off, shut down, escape, run. To not judge these other people with purple fucking hair and weird shit in their noses and no critical thinking in their conversation, their unwillingness to have conversation or a dialogue with anyone else other than yell their point of view. I remember when I was 18, 19, 20, and I was exactly the same. I was almighty. My thoughts were right. And if it puts me in a jail, so fucking be it. So who's wrong here, my friends? Does anybody know? Does anybody have any wisdom they can share with me that might help me get through my contemplation of the demise of society and the imploding of our civil structure? Because we have three choices: shut down and hide, continue to try and help them, or the alternative. God don't like that one. God kind of likes that one. God don't like that one. My normal behavior is this one. Fuck you. You go in the dirt. But that's not who I choose to be. And it makes me feel like a failure. Makes me feel like I'm shutting down. Makes me feel like I don't care anymore. But I feel that's the way we are being pushed to. That's the numbness is what the status quo wants. They want us to be oversaturated. They want us to be numb. They want us to disconnect from what is right, being so bombarded by all of it that we just go, you know what? Done with you. I'm fucking done with you. Talk to the hand. I'm not even going to engage anymore. So what do we do, my friends? Does anybody know? Tiffany, Tony, Joseph, does anybody know what we do? How do we approach people who refuse to listen to basic logic or even allow one to finish a sentence. When their educational level is not sufficient enough to understand what a debate is, what a conversation is, what do we do? I'm 15 minutes past my time. I think all we can do is turn to ourselves, turn to what we believe is a higher power and a God, and try and be the kind of people that we want them to be. And if they persist in forcing their agenda on us, there does come a time where that gratitude and love ends. Hope you guys had a good week. I appreciate you spending this time with me, and I look forward to speaking with you on Monday, hoping that we all make it through the weekend and none of us do any more damage to our thought processes and our emotions. I appreciate you guys, and I thank you for joining me. I hope to see you Monday night. Why? Because you are so beautiful. Your name's Tiffany.